Welcome to San Antonio Sports Motivation Monday. Here with you today on our Tuesday edition of Motivation Monday. I am Mandy Adkins, and we are going to visit today with professional tennis player Jessica Pegula. And Jessica made her Grand Slam singles debut at the 2015 US Open as a qualifier. And in 2018, she reached her first WTA singles final in Quebec City as a qualifier, and she reached the finals. And then in 2019, Jessica won her first singles title at Washington, D.C., and reached the finals in two other competitions. And since tennis has resumed in 2020, Jessica has competed in the Western and Southern Open in New York, the US Open, and the French Open. And we were fortunate enough to get to know Jessica when she made her Fed Cup debut in San Antonio for the US in the 2019 World Group Playoff. So Jessica, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the nice intro.
We have quite the history, and the professional tennis circuit obviously came to a halt earlier this year before it resumed just recently. So tell us a little bit about how did you deal with that new normal of training, traveling globally, and what has it meant for your career, both kind of short term and long term?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone was kind of rocked by the pandemic and everything that happened. For me, obviously, I guess our lifestyle or our job and career is a little different than like most people. But I think as a whole, we were all affected just because we're so used to competing. And honestly, I think most tennis players, since we were probably playing junior events when we were like 15 or 16, are used to traveling like the entire year. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a change where I think some people, unless you've been injured before and you were out, haven't experienced having that long of a break. So I think some handled it differently depending on how they wanted to. I definitely took the time to like work on my fitness and be home with my family. So I thought that was really kind of a nice time for me to have. And luckily my family was in Florida a lot, where I live, and I got to spend a lot of time with them, sometimes too much time, but it was nice to like be all together, because we're all a little older now. So we're not really together as much as we used to be. So that was really fun. And I think I was, glad to see that the stop wasn't too long. Obviously coming off a really good year, I was a little kind of annoyed that it happened, but I think when you look at the bigger picture of everything going around, that, you just have to be grateful that we were able to get back on the court so quickly. So, I did pretty well coming back. So hopefully, if next year goes smoothly, it didn't really affect me too much, long-term or short-term. But everything's kind of changing every week. So hopefully we can kind of wrap it up and move on. I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you talked a little bit about injuries. I know that injuries have been a common theme in your career, but yet you have never given up and continued to be persistent on the court. And so what did you use for inspiration to overcome those injuries and those times when you were out?
Yeah, I've had, like my fair share that have kept me out for a pretty decent amount of time. So it was definitely tough. I think, some of the injuries I got when you're younger, you don't really think about it. But then as you get older, and I had a couple, you start thinking like, okay, like, am I going to be okay? Am I going to continue to play? I think you just have to take it really like day by day, and kind of celebrate the little victories in rehab or getting back your physical strength. I read a lot too. I read a lot of like inspirational books about other athletes. I read about like, Drew Brees and like Kobe Bryant and like all these things, and however you realize how most athletes do come back, if it's not too bad, but, and kind of have to fight through that and go through that phase in their career. So I kind of just tried to think of it as a challenge, when things would get tough. But yeah, definitely sometimes you get really upset. And luckily I wasn't, I wouldn't get too down on myself. I was able to kind of bounce back, but really trying to stay as positive as you can. And then just kind of build like little building blocks every day. And just try and get better, get back out there.
Yeah, well, kind of in that regard, are there, especially, obviously the staying positive and keeping motivated, do you have any tips you could share with us on how you personally stay motivated, whether
Yeah.
it's in a normal year, or during the last couple of months, how you've stayed motivated in the midst of the closures?
Yeah. Well, yeah, some days obviously are harder than others. I think, like I said, I read a lot because I just think, if you're reading something and putting something into your mind that's like positive, then that's always going to reflect what you do, for the most part. So that's definitely something I like to do. And I read about any type, whether it's just performance or even if it's more life related or tennis related, it really doesn't matter. So I really like doing that. And honestly, I just like taking care of myself. So to me, it wasn't crazy hard. Like I like to work out. Obviously the more you do it, the better you feel. And if you kind of lay off of it, it gets harder and harder to kind of get back into working out or practicing and all this stuff. So I don't know. I like to just make little goals for myself and challenges too. That really helps, whether it's fitness goals, mental goals, saying I'm going to read a book or I'm going to meditate or I'm going to just try something different. I think just stimulates you and kind of keeps you going, in a positive way. And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be working out or tennis. It could be something work or school related. So I think just challenging yourself a little bit really
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I feel like, especially when a lot of us have been home and haven't had that daily routine we're used to, the ability to challenge yourself of, okay, this is what I'm working towards today or this week is
Yeah.
definitely helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Setting those little small goals. And I think too, a lot of people have said that, like out of their daily routine, like making a new routine, something new that you're going to do, they
Right.
kind of have to get into a rhythm with. And then I think things become easier when you kind of have that. And yeah, and just I think too, it's good for people that wanted to take time for themselves during this period of time and try new things or new hobbies or cook more or learn an instrument. So really, it doesn't matter which way you go with it. Just yeah, learning something new and taking the time and reflecting on it as a good thing, to grow, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of in that realm, you talked a little bit about mental health and kind of what for you has been the relationship between physical activity and mental health.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I don't really like going. I will first thing, yeah, it's definitely goes hand in hand. I would say, especially for tennis, I would say most of it really is mental for the most part in most sports and probably most things that you do. Of course, physically, the better you feel, that feeds into how you're going to feel mentally and vice versa. So it's always kind of that balance. And I think treating your brain kind of like a muscle where you still have to care for it and tend for it just like you would an injury is really important too.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think that relationship is always you're always trying to balance it and there's always going to be days where one's worse than the other and I think that's kind of normal and you just have to learn how to kind of get it back to normal and balance that. Like I said, reading and stuff really helps and I don't go on social media or then I don't really watch the news like too much, just enough to stay updated or whenever I feel like it, but definitely not kind of gluing yourself to social media because again I feel like you're just reading kind of a lot of it is negative or it's just not very healthy kind of reading that type of stuff. So to me, again, like reading negative things is just going to make you sort of feel worse most of the time. And when people had a lot of downtime, you could kind of get caught doing that. So I try not to overly consume myself with that stuff and kind of keep my mind sharper doing other things, especially now that we had so much time. So I tried to cook more and do stuff like that, more hands-on stuff to kind of get away from all that craziness.
Yes. Yeah, it's easy to go down the rabbit hole and realize you've got to kind of pull yourself back out. And we talked
Mhm.
about at the beginning of quarantine, it kind of looking at this as a gift of time and what were all the things we wanted to get done, both professionally and personally, in this sudden gift of time that
Yeah.
we unexpectedly had. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, I I'm not gonna lie. I mean, of course, there were some days where I was like, it's already been a month and I didn't do anything that I said I wanted to do. Um, so yeah, of course, we're all gonna do that. It's natural, but yeah, just kind of trying to not consume myself with, because especially with all the COVID stuff, it's been, cases and people dying, and it's horrible stuff that you want to be aware of it, but again, you don't want to really let it consume you, because then I think that's when you start getting, or it starts negatively kind of affecting you to that extent. So just trying to keep a healthy relationship between that, and then obviously working out a little bit is always going to help mentally and help you feel better about yourself. So
Right.
again, it's always just kind of figuring out the balance for each person too. It's different, but that kind of helps them keep that physical and mental health in check.
Absolutely. Well, San Antonio Sports' mission is to transform our community through the power of sport. Can you share some of your thoughts on the power of sport and what sport has done for you in your life?
Yeah, I'm a huge component of just playing sports when you're young. I know a lot of people don't like sports, it's fine, but I just think it's so good for you, for kids playing when they're young. It just teaches you so many life lessons that for sure kind of carry throughout your life. I feel like, especially tennis, it's an individual sport, and we started so young that I felt like I matured really, really quickly, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's interesting how sports just kind of, again, teach you these lessons that you couldn't really learn, or that people don't learn until they're like 30 years old. So it's pretty cool. Just discipline, work ethic, working with the team, working with other players, being competitive. I think it's so good at forcing you to kind of do stuff too that you don't want to do, like practices you don't want to go to,
Right.
whatever it is, because it's just like life, there's things that are going to come up that you're not going to want to do or really enjoy, but sometimes you just have to do it. And so I think that aspect of it is just really cool. It's helped me so much just in so many other areas of my life than just on the court. So I think the lessons it teaches us are kind of endless. So yeah, I'm a huge component of sports and kids playing sports. Again, I just think it's great, to be honest, for everything, especially when you're young.
Yeah, we share the same sentiments.
Yeah.
We have a program called I Play After School, and tennis is one of the sports we teach in our
Yeah.
after school program. And we talk about that a lot, in that sports is kind of the outlet and the avenue at which we're teaching the life lessons and the
Yeah.
character traits. And it's so much more than just the sport itself.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to explain, but it really does teach so many lessons. And I think that's why too, you see a lot of successful people were, high school, college, professional athletes, and a lot of them go on, and people that are hiring people just love to see, oh my gosh, you were a college student athlete. Like that's one of the hardest things to do. That's amazing. Like we know you have the work ethic. So like that's something too that just translates uh to everything. And yeah, it's something that I don't think people should really miss out, because it's one of those things you can only do once, you can't go back and do it. So I think it's something everyone, if they have the opportunity, should play, at least, unless they absolutely hate it. But, if they try different things, see what you like. And I think it's good. And it's good to help socialize kids too. And yeah.
Yeah, it's all about the balance.
Yeah, it is.
Well, to kind of wrap us up, Jessica, have there been any silver linings for you in the past couple of months?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I guess I was lucky a little bit because I did pretty well coming out of the pandemic. So I felt like, I think a lot of girls too kind of felt like, okay, you can either treat this as be ready to go when it comes back, or you can kind of be like, okay, this year's kind of a wash, whatever. And it doesn't matter. I mean, whatever way you want to take it, if you wanted to take a break, that's fine. But for me, I really wanted to kind of get a jump on everyone, so to speak, because I still worked really hard in quarantine. And when we were allowed to really start practicing again, I wanted to be really ready before we started playing. So I would say that I definitely found something good from quarantine. I think my mindset was really good, and physically I stayed in shape. So I think I got rewarded for that in Cincinnati and US Open, and had some of my best results. So I haven't played much since then, just the French Open. So I'm glad I took that time to really focus and fight and compete really well because, yeah, we won't be playing again till hopefully Australia, but that's not till January. So I'm glad I made the most of that time,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely. Well, we
Mm.
wish you the best of luck as you continue to train and get ready for Australia. And just thank you so much for your time visiting with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Take care.